Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Jamunatira Vanachari Jamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradari Jaya Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Jamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Govinda Radha Govinda Radhe Jaya Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Prabhupada Shri Radha Govinda Dev Ki Jai. Okay, so today we're reading from Śhrīmad-Bhāgavatam, second canto, 5th chapter, text number 30, which is all these really complicated descriptions of creation of the universe. So, Vaikarikan mano jagye Deva Vaikarika Dāsa Digvataraka Prachetosvi Vanindropendra Mitrakaha Vaikarikan mano jagye Deva Vaikarika Dāsa Digvataraka Prachetosvi Vanindropendra Mitrakaha Vaikarikan mano jagye Deva Vaikarika Dāsa Digvataraka Prachetosvi Vanindropendra Mitrakaha. Please chant.
Vaikarikan mano janye
Maji? Word for word. Vaikarikat, from the mode of goodness. Manaha, the mind. I guess it's Jagne, I don't know how to exactly pronounce it. Jagne, generated. Devaha, demigods. Vaikarikaha, in the mode of goodness. Dāsa, 10. Dik, the controller of directions. Vata, the controller of air. Arka, the sun. Pracheta, Varuna. Ashvi, the Ashvini Kumars. Varni, the fire god. Indra, the king of heaven. Upendra, the deity in heaven. Mitra, one of the 12 Adityas. Kaha, Prajapati Brahma. Translation by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada. From the mode of goodness, the mind is generated and becomes manifest, as also the 10 demigods controlling the bodily movements. Such demigods are known as the controller of directions, the controller of air, the sun god, the father of Daksha Prajapati, the Ashvini Kumars, the fire god, the king of heaven, the worshipable deity in heaven, the chief of the Adityas, and Brahmaji, the Prajapati. All come into existence. Purport. Vaikarika is the neutral stage of creation, and Tejas is the initiative of creation, while Tamas is the full display of material creation under the spell of the darkness of ignorance. Manufacture of the necessities of life, quote, in factories and workshops, excessively prominent in the age of Kali, or in the age of the machine, is the summit stage of the quality of darkness. Such manufacturing enterprises by human society are in the mode of darkness, because factually there is no necessity for the commodities manufactured. Human society primarily requires food for subsistence, shelter for sleeping, defense for protection, and commodities for satisfaction of the senses. The senses are the practical signs of life, as will be explained in the next verse. Human civilization is meant for purifying the senses, and objects of sense satisfaction should be supplied as much as absolutely required, but not for aggravating artificial sensory needs. Food, shelter, defense, and sense gratification are all needs in material existence. Otherwise, in his pure, uncontaminated state of original life, the living entity has no such needs. The needs are therefore artificial, and in the pure state of life, there are no such needs. As such, increasing the artificial needs as is the standard of material civilization or advancing the economic development of human society, is a sort of engagement in darkness without knowledge. By such engagement, human energy is spoiled, because human energy is primarily meant for purifying the senses in order to engage them in satisfying the senses of the Supreme Lord. The Supreme Lord, being the supreme possessor of spiritual senses, is the master of the senses, Rishikesha. Rishika means the senses, and Isha means the master. The Lord is not the servant of the senses, or in other words, he is not directed by the dictation of the senses, but the conditioned souls or the individual living entities are servants of the senses. They are conducted by the direction or dictation of the senses, and therefore material civilization is a kind of engagement in sense gratification only. The standard of human civilization should be to cure the disease of sense gratification, and one can do this simply by becoming an agent for satisfying the spiritual senses of the Lord. The senses are never to be stopped in their engagements, but one should purify them by engaging them in the pure service of sense gratification of the master of the senses. This is the instruction of the whole Bhagavad Gita. Arjuna wanted first of all to satisfy his own senses by his decision not to fight with his kinsmen and friends. But Lord Sri Krishna taught him the Bhagavad Gita just to purify Arjuna's decision for sense gratification. Therefore Arjuna agreed to satisfy the senses of the Lord, and thus he fought the battle of Kurukshetra as the Lord desired. The Vedas instruct us to get out of the existence of darkness and go forward on the path of light, tamasima jyotirgama. The path of light is therefore to satisfy the senses of the Lord. Misguided men or less intelligent men follow the path of self-realization without any attempt to satisfy the transcendental senses of the Lord by following the path shown by Arjuna and the other devotees of the Lord. On the contrary, they artificially try to stop the activities of the senses, yoga system, or they deny the transcendental senses of the Lord, jnana system. The devotees, however, are above the yogis and the jnanis because pure devotees do not deny the senses of the Lord. They want to satisfy the senses of the Lord. Only because of the darkness of ignorance do the yogis and jnanis deny the senses of the Lord, and thus artificially try to control the activities of the diseased senses. In the diseased condition of the senses, there is too much engagement of the senses in increasing material needs. When one comes to see the disadvantage of aggravating the sense activities, one is called a jnani. And when one tries to stop the activities of the senses by the practice of yogic principles, he is called a yogi. But when one is fully aware of the transcendental senses of the Lord and tries to satisfy his senses, one is called a devotee of the Lord. The devotees of the Lord do not try to deny the senses of the Lord, nor do they artificially stop the actions of the senses, but they do voluntarily engage the purified senses in the service of the master of the senses, as was done by Arjuna, thereby easily attaining the perfection of satisfying the Lord, the ultimate goal of all perfection. Om agyantamadandasya gyananjana shalakaya chakshurun militam yena tasmai shri gurave namaha mukam karati vachalam pangam langayate grim yakripatamaham vande shri gurun dinataranam vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyeva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. So this verse is, or the purport is basically all about senses throughout the entire thing, Prabhupada is, continually bringing it back to these concepts of sense gratification, and in the material world, how we have these senses, how to deal with them, and what not to do, which is clearly being involuntarily displayed by our whole society. There's a lot in this purport, so I'll try and go through it systematically. Prabhupada's describing in the beginning that human society, just needs 4 things: food, shelter, defense, and he says commodities for satisfaction of the senses. So human life is actually really very simple, but we often make it so complicated with all of our mental needs, That's the whole principle of materialistic civilization is, I don't know, saying who does it? I guess the big companies or whoever that are trying to exploit the, general mass of people. They create all these artificial desires, iPhone 12, iPhone 13, iPhone 14s, all these desires that, you need this thing, you've got to have it, if you don't have it, then you're not going to be happy, you're not experiencing life, to the highest degree, you're not going to be satisfied. Actually it's really very simple. You just need these, these things. And of course you need, from devotees' understanding, we understand that you need Krishna consciousness, because even if you have these 4 things without Krishna consciousness, there's not going to be, complete satisfaction. There's not actually going to be that happiness that every jiva is searching for in the material world since time immemorial. But we're only going to be increasing that, continuing the search for that thing. But on a, I guess you could say, most basic level, or like animal level, I guess, all these 4 things are all that's needed. And later Prabhupada discusses that our human civilization is meant for purifying the senses. So these objects for sense satisfaction, they shouldn't be indulged in more than necessary, to keep the senses pacified so that we can engage in devotional service. That's the, that's the goal of, or that's the reason why, we're allowed, we have such opulent prasadam, It's like if you go to a yogi's ashram or something like that, they would think that we're, crazy or something. We're gratifying the senses, but, we're offering these things to Krishna for his pleasure, and then whatever remnants come as foodstuffs, we can take to pacify the senses, satisfy them, so that the mind is also kept, peaceful, and we don't have hankering for things that aren't offered to Krishna, other things. But we're satisfied, and it's quite nice actually that Krishna, he's so kind that he gives us, it says in Prasadam prayers, you've given us such nice foodstuffs for controlling the tongue. It's really a symptom of his mercy, because we're not so advanced that, at least speaking for myself, I'm not so advanced that I can just like live off, half cup buttermilk every other day like Raghunath Das Goswami, or, khichdi every day or something like that. Like there's a funny story with Hanuman in Dwarka, I believe. But Prabhupada quotes this story that Hanuman was, or maybe it was Puri anyway, but Prabhupada was guarding the city, and particularly guarding the deity in the temple, and it was by the ocean, and so he was appointed that position of being like the guard because the ocean was in such ecstasy knowing that Krishna was so close in his deity form that the ocean wanted to come and touch Krishna's lotus feet. And so if the ocean did that, the whole city gets flooded and it disturbs everything. And so they appointed Hanuman to keep the ocean at bay and protect the city. But he was just being fed khichdi every day. That was his only meal. Khichdi. And he started getting tired of it after some time. And he's thinking, oh, this is not so nice, And then he got an invitation from Lord Ram in Ayodhya that, Hanuman, please come, we're having a great feast, and you can have my association, it'll be so nice, and see, it's really lovely, please come. And so Hanuman, immediately was like, oh my God, my Lord's calling me, and, there will be a nice feast, so I have to go. So he jumped up, he left, I believe it was Dwarka, and went to Ayodhya and had a great festival with Lord Ram and great time. And, so many different preparations in the feast that he enjoyed. And then when he came back to his service, he saw the whole city was flooded and everyone was in distress. Things are everywhere. It's like a, big natural disaster. And the people were quite upset with him. You abandoned your service. Now look at all this, all this that's happened because of you. And so they complained to Lord Ram, and he said, no, it's not, it's not Hanuman's fault because you're feeding him khichdi every day. He's a brahmachari. This is, what do you expect? So sense gratification needs to be there in a regulated way, as Prabhupada's saying, just for the just enough as is necessary, but not to unnecessarily aggravate the senses. So there's an interesting purport I was reading, lecture, in Vrindavan, which is really related to these points that Prabhupada gave on Śhrīmad-Bhāgavatam 1.5.35 in August 16th, 1974. So I thought this was really instructive. So our Krishna consciousness movement does not say you stop anything. No, whatever you have got liking you can do, but Bhagavat Paritoshanam. By your work you try to satisfy Krishna. This is our proposal. We do not say the negative, stop. No. And it is confirmed in the Shastras, Atak Pumbir Dvija Sreshta. Generally, according to Vedic principle, there are 4 divisions of karma, not 8 divisions, according to Varna and Ashram. Atak Pumbir Dvija Sreshta Varnashrama Vibhagasaha. The division of work must be there, otherwise the society cannot go on very nicely. If everyone is a Brahmin and not interested in anything material, or simply ... because it is, after all, material world. If everyone becomes Brahmana, now it will not go. There must be others. Otherwise, how human society will go on? Not only intelligent class of men, there must be the workers, protectors, productive class of men, and the worker class of men, so on. Suppose you are constructing this temple. If we devotees remain Hare Krishna, then who will construct this temple? Everything is required. We do not say stop this or stop that. No. So that different division, is scientifically made in the Vedic conception of life, Varna Ashram. 4 Varnas and 4 ashrams. Ashram for spiritual advancement and Varnas for material advancement. So we want both of them because our life is a combination of spirit and matter. So it is not that, to make the best use of a bad bargain. Suppose you have got a car. It is not a very good car. It's not American car, but Ambassador. That's a cheap Indian car. 3 times, brakes. But you have to utilize it. Bad bargain. Similarly, some way or other, we have got this material body. We cannot neglect it. We don't say that neglect it, don't care for the body. No, why? That is the instruction of the Goswamis. Anashaktasya vishayan yutarham upayunjataha. Don't be attached to the bodily demands. Bodily demands means eating, sleeping, sex life, and offending. These are bodily demands. So if we say that I am not this body, so I don't care for this eating, sleeping, no, that is not. It is not vairagya. This kind of renunciation is not recommended for our Krishna consciousness movement. The Goswamis recommended anashaktasya vishayan. You do not be attached to the demands of the body, but you utilize it for advancing in Krishna consciousness. Eating is required. If you don't eat nicely, then body cannot be maintained. But anashaktasya vishayan yutarham. Eating is required, but not eating too much. Not eating to the taste of the tongue, unnecessarily. Eating meat, fish, eggs. Why? You're a human being. For you, Krishna has given so much varieties of foodstuffs. Fruit, vegetables, nice rice, dal, milk, ghee. Why should you go to the meat eating? This is required. You eat like human being, not like cats and dogs. But eating is not prohibited. That is not our philosophy. Don't eat like cats and dogs, but eat like human being. And Prabhupada goes on explaining about sleeping and all these other things. And he also says, so our process is to follow the Goswamis. Echai Goshai Yar Tan Mula Das. So we should try to follow the Goswamis. We should keep in view what they did. They used to, say, pass their time in Krishnot Kirtana Gananartana Paro. Krishnot Kirtana Gananartana Paro Prem Amritam Bhonidhi Dira Dira Janapriyo. So this is a really interesting thing that we have to do. We have to become followers of the Goswamis, and at the same time, we have to understand what that means, because the Goswamis are instructing us that this type of vairagya, of the tyagis, those who just give up, all material things, it's not recommended for us, because generally speaking, we can't maintain that kind of renunciation. No, you just give up all considerations for the body, sleeping, eating, mating, defending. But instead we come kind of like to a compromise with our material situation, our mind and senses, and their demands. And while we don't, whimsically give in to what, they're asking for, what they're demanding, we try and find like a balance that, okay, you need food, you like nice food stuffs, so, I'll cook something nice, offer it to Krishna, he'll enjoy it, and then I'll take whatever, mercy he gives back, because actually it's only his anyway. I'm cooking with his ingredients. And, we need sleep, we need all these things to maintain the body for his service. But yeah, so it's like a careful balance, trying to find not trying to find the balance of not being attached to the demands of the body, while also being able to engage in Krishna's service without there being like a lot of disturbance in the mind or in the body. Like, at least for myself, sometimes when I do Nirjala Kadashi, the next morning, it's like my mind is like, I feel like I'm floating in the clouds. I can't really focus, and I feel all like lightheaded and funny. So we have to be practical, with where we're at. And Prabhupada said some very interesting things, and most of you have probably heard this lecture. This is a discussion he was giving. So he's talking on the same point. Actually, he quotes the same verse, but it's very related. So it's on this discussion about what to do with our propensities that our senses are putting forth. Each sense wants something. The eyes want to see beautiful things. Tongue wants to taste beautiful things. Senses of touch, all these different senses, they have their sense objects that they're attracted to. And so he's saying, how can we present this particularly to a materialistic person? Okay. You cannot practice this yoga separately. You have to take shelter of Krishna or his devotee. That is called mad ashraya. Mad ashraya means one who has taken shelter of me. One may say that, how can I take shelter of Krishna? Krishna is not present here. He is present everywhere. It's a question of realization. Then you can take shelter of his representative, mad ashraya. Asamshayam samangram mam yatha gyasyasi touch. Asamshayam, without any doubt, samagram, incomplete, yatha, as, gyasyasi, you can understand, tachanu, you hear from me. Krishna is describing himself, how you can increase your attachment for Krishna. This will be very elaborately described. We have no time to read now, but 1 or 2 verses I can speak before you. Just like Krishna says, Rasoham apsukonteya prabhasmi shashi shuryayoho. Rasoham. Rasa means the taste or the attractive taste. Just like when you eat sweet meat or any eatables. So who knows what sweet meat is? Because when I first heard it, I was like, what on earth is sweet meat? It sounds like some weird thing, but you know what sweet meats are.
My understanding is it's like a name for like Sandesh or Burfi.
Yeah, exactly. It's just, rasgola and sandesh and like...
Item of confectionery or sweet food.
Yeah. So it's like, particularly milk products it usually refers to. But so sweet meats, it's not some weird thing. Anyway. So, like when you eat sweet meat or any eatables, there is some nice taste for which you eat. Or you drink water, you are thirsty, you want water, but there is a good taste in the water. Otherwise, how will you quench your thirst? There is taste, everyone knows. So Krishna says, Rasoham apsukonteya. Any liquid thing, the taste which attracts you, that is I. This is interesting. Even you are a drunkard, you're fond of tasting wine. I should recommend that you simply think that this taste of wine is Krishna. That will make a yogi of you. That will make you the greatest yogi. If you simply think this, that I am tasting wine, oh, very nice. This is Krishna. Is there any loss if you think like that? This is Krishna consciousness. So obviously, we shouldn't, copy that. But Prabhupada is saying, for the very materialistic person, where can they start? Oh, very nice. This is Krishna. This is Krishna consciousness. I am the shining of the sun and the moon. Now every day, morning, you see the sun shining. So as soon as you see the sun shining, if you think of Krishna, oh, this sun shining is Krishna, you become a yogi. At night also, as soon as you see the moon shine, so immediately, if you think this moon shining is Krishna, so you can become Krishna conscious in any circumstances. There's no limitation that you have to become Krishna conscious under this condition, that condition. The condition will be enunciated later on. First of all, you try to become Krishna conscious. That you at least, you drink water, and so many times in a day you just try to think that the taste of the water is Krishna. That is the beginning of your Krishna yoga system. And then if you chant Hare Krishna Mahamantra, then you'll become gradually the greatest yogi without becoming very learned scholar, without becoming Vedantist, without becoming religionist, or simply by this process you try to practice and your life will be perfect. So again, Prabhupada so mercifully, giving us the essence, making such a complicated process so simple that, even for common layman, just when you're drinking water, you think, Rasohamapsu Kunteya, oh, this is the taste of Krishna, And, when you progress, you want to offer everything to Krishna, or your foodstuffs, or your things, you want to devote thinking of Krishna, always, that's the goal. But yeah, you start here and you can become more advanced. So I think there may have been one other interesting thing that, oh yeah. So again, in this purport, Prabhupada is bringing up that what we do in Krishna consciousness is meant for pleasing the senses of Krishna. Rishikena Rishikesha Sevanam Bhakti Uchate. That with the senses that we have, like a bad bargain, we have to, human life is meant for purifying them so that we can engage the senses, which are the property of Krishna, in his service, for his pleasure. And in that way, it's making a good deal of a bad bargain. It's actually, it's like paying the debt back to some extent that we've taken. And there's this verse in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Krishnendriya Priti, I forget the whole Bhogavancha. That's nice. It's so nice. Yeah. So when one's senses are used for one's own pleasure, it's known as lust, right? Akam. Yeah. And when one's senses, the same senses, exact same senses, when they're engaged in the service of Krishna, it's known as love or prema. So we want to come to that stage that, we only want to engage our senses in the service of pleasing the senses of Krishna. We want to sing very nicely for him, cook, whatever service we're doing, cook for him nicely, dress him nicely. All of our activities we want to be doing for his pleasure of his senses. And he, because he's a person, he has things he likes and doesn't like. He likes things done a certain way, he doesn't like things done a certain way. So as we advance more and more, we want to try and understand that more deeply, kind of enter that deeper understanding. What does, my Lord actually like? What does he want me to do? How does he want me to do it? And so he'll be happy with us. And also, Krishna's, he's most pleased like Prabhupada saying in the purport, that Krishna is most pleased when we follow his representatives. Like he's talking about the yogis and jnanis that unfortunately they're misguided because they don't follow transcendental devotees of the Lord or following the path shown by them. So Krishna is very pleased when we do that, when we follow the, Srila Prabhupada and our predecessor acharyas, 6 Goswamis, all the way up to the Nitya Parikar, eternal associates of Krishna. That's obviously pretty far up there, that's quite advanced, but we should come to that level where we can actually follow in their mood and try and serve Krishna in one of the moods that we're attracted to. And we can try and do that, in our daily devotional service. Like Ananda Kirtan Prabhu said something really nice a long time ago, which I thought about. It stays in my mind whenever I'm in the kitchen, because he's really realized devotee. So he was saying something that when one's in the kitchen just cutting vegetables, it's like such a simple service, and one can very easily think it's mundane, that, I'm just cutting these cabbage or carrots or whatever, this is so boring, I want to be out, distributing books or doing kirtan or something, this is really lame. But if one has the right consciousness, they can, not in a cheap way, but they can try and understand that this is Krishna's service, this is, in Krishna's kitchen, and, I'm assisting devotees that are cooking directly for Krishna. So your activities are non-different than in the spiritual world. Mother Yashoda is doing the same thing. Radharani is cooking for Krishna, So if one can develop that consciousness that I'm trying to assist in that service, then, with purification, one will be following the footsteps of the residents of Vrindavan. And that's our goal of our process. We want to be doing that. Again, not in a cheap way, but in a very serious way, with serious endeavor. And there are some other things not so related to this verse that I thought would be interesting, but I guess if there's no questions, we could discuss them. But if there are any questions or comments or things anyone would like to add, I guess now is a good time.
Your verses and selections from Prabhupada's books that came to mind in the purport in the class and the show. I was reading the Chaitanya Charitamrita, and there's this really cool phrase, sentence, I guess, in the purport, Madhya 16, 238. One cannot be really renounced until one actually becomes disgusted with material activity and sees it as a stumbling block of spiritual advancement.
Wow, that's nice.
So that's how these 6 Goswamis reduced everything.
Yeah.
Their practice of, their method of attaining Krishna wasn't to be like shaggy or something.
Yeah.
But they just noticed all these things were getting in the way of their service and they weren't necessary, so they gradually chopped them off.
Yeah.
Until they had very little left, Some verses too, that there's this nice verse in a very famous chapter, Divinity and Divine Service, chapter 2, canto 1. It goes on, Krishna, Kamasya Nandriya Pratir, Lavo Jivata Yavata, Jivasya Tata Jigyasa Natariyascha Kamadi. Life desire should never be directed towards sense gratification. One should desire only a healthy life or self-preservation, since the human being is meant for inquiry about the absolute truth. Nothing else should be the goal of one's works. So, in other words, we should live very simply because we have an important focus, self-realization.
Yeah.
There's one from Bhagavad Gita. It goes on. Idricha lava sankashto, bandhutita ramatsra, samasthidava siddhacha, pitpati satisfied with gain which comes of its own accord, who is free from duality and is not envied, who is steady at both success and failure, and is never entangled, although performing action. So it starts out, he is satisfied with gain which comes of its own accord.
Mm.
And we see so much, you almost don't even have to endeavor for prasadam.
Yeah. Like the devotees try and shove it down your throat. You're like, yeah, that was nice. Thank you for sharing that. One little thing that was related, one of the extra things I was thinking of sharing that I liked in the first comment you made about the Goswamis, that they, it wasn't necessarily that, they just had this tyagi mood that, I'm going to give this up and get, and the heart becomes very hard. But they saw that, this was getting in the way of my service to Krishna, or I could increase my service so much more if I wasn't doing this. So that was the that was the that was the motivation. That was the reason why they gave up these particular things, because I could do better service. So in a class given by Madhavananda Prabhu on the purpose of vratas, vows in Gaudiya Vaishnavism, he said something really interesting in this matter, that the reason we follow Ekadashi, the reason we perform vratas, the main reason is to decrease the propensity for sense gratification and self-centered consciousness, to put Krishna in the center. And it's the thing that we can do with our gross mind and senses on that platform to try and increase our consciousness of Krishna. Because if you just try and think of Krishna, it can be difficult. But by removing these things out of the way that get in the way, you can more easily move towards that. And so the ultimate goal of our austerities is not for becoming an advanced devotee, it's not for becoming a big personality like the yogis want to, but it's actually meant to give Krishna pleasure, because, if our motivation is more to give Krishna pleasure rather than become an advanced devotee, the tendency, it works out better, because there's a selfish tinge, in this idea that I want to perform all these austerities, so that I can make advancement, It's good desire, it's better than, desiring material gratification, but, really trying to please Krishna, like Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said, try to act in such a way that Krishna wants to see you, rather than trying to see Krishna. So trying to act, purely for his pleasure, that's our goal. And there's some other really interesting things, but I think we should end here. Maybe we could discuss them another time, unless there's any other questions or comments. Good time, okay. Grantaraj Śhrīmad-Bhāgavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Oh, and we